What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. Now, ideally, I would make this later in the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, but unfortunately, due to my work schedule, I'm unable to do that. So that's why we're doing these two videos today. Ideally, I was going to have one video, but then I saw how long it would take me, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm better off just doing two separate videos here. So, this is fun. This will be exciting. So, if you saw earlier today, we did release a video where we discussed the most likely Hall of Famer from each team in the AFC. This video is going to be the most likely Hall of Famer from each team in the NFC. Now, this NFC video is probably going to take a little bit longer just because there's a few more players to discuss, specifically when you get to the Rams. But other than that, I mean, we're going to have some fun. So, without further ado, let me just discuss the introduction, so to speak. So, I'm just making sure that the audio is working, which it is. Perfect. Okay. So basically, this video is going to discuss the most likely Hall of Famer currently on a given team. This video is going to be solely the NFC. AFC video is already up. So there will be a couple of honorable mentions for players who have retired within the past 5 years and will probably be in the Hall of Fame soon. Case in point, Joe Thomas. So we discussed him earlier with Browns. Now, I will also mention future Hall of Famers for one team who are currently playing on another. Example is Tom Brady. We mentioned him very briefly with the Patriots. We're, of course, going to talk about him now, later today with the Buccaneers. Now, no players drafted in 2018 or more recently will be mentioned, just because I think you need to have played at least like 5 years in the league before I can get a real handle on if you're going to be a Hall of Famer or not. Now, there will be a couple players I'll mention if you were drafted. If you're on like the complete right trajectory, I'll mention you, but I'm not going to have you as a number one pick. You can be in the honorable mentions, but you will not be the number one pick. We will also not be discussing owners, nor will we be discussing coaches. I mentioned before with the owners. I mean, who are you going to tell me belongs in the Hall of Fame that's currently an owner that isn't in the Hall already? I mean, it just doesn't, it's not easy. So, as always, these are my opinions. Please feel free to leave a comment in the, below if you completely disagree with me, if you think I'm a complete moron. So, like I said with the AFC video, we're just going to finish simming the, this game here. So, should be fun. I always tend to have to cut off the gameplay, so hey, we're doing two videos today, we might as well finish up the game. Anyways, let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I'm going with wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I literally flipped between three different players. I wrote down Hopkins first, then I wrote down another, then I wrote down another, then I wrote down Hopkins, then I wrote down another, then I wrote down Hopkins and kept it Hopkins. So we're going to discuss the other two guys later and the third one. But DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, honestly, while I could have gone with the other two players, I decided to roll with Nuke. He's currently fifth among all active players in receiving yards. And he's been an absolute force since debuting for 2013 for the Texans. So keep in mind, he hasn't even played a decade yet, and he's already considered like a force. He's one of the best players in the league. He is a 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro selection, and a 2-time second-team All-Pro. Now, he was a later pick, too, all things considered, and he just really broke out in 2013, his rookie year. And he's been a complete dominant force. Now, obviously, his 2021 regular season's over, but if the Cardinals can make a run in the playoffs, they'll have the return of DeAndre Hopkins to look forward to. So, now, I do have the honorable mentions, and there's 3 of them. And honestly, all 4, I can safely say that all 4 of these players I'm going to be talking about will be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Okay? Now, the first honorable mention, this is the guy I was the closest to having. I actually started writing, and I'm like, you know what, I can't. I got to go with Hopkins. Defensive end, J.J. Watt. Now, J.J. Watt is just a stud. He, obviously, when he makes a Hall of Fame, he'll go in as a Texan just because he spent the vast majority of his career in Houston. I mean, right now, I don't want to say he's chasing a ring in Arizona, but you could make a case that he's chasing a ring in Arizona because he did leave Houston to join the Cardinals as they attempt to make a push. But Arizona's also been known to have like a bunch of, veterans that are like super good Hall of Fame-esque type players towards the end of the career. Anyway, J.J. Watt, complete dominant force. He is all but certainly a Hall of Famer. The reason I went with Hopkins over him is because J.J. Watt is only on a 1-year deal, and I don't know if he's going to come back next year. but the way he played, he's in the Hall of Fame already. Then we have wide receiver A.J. Green. Similarly to Watt, he's on a 1-year deal, and this is his first year in Arizona, but when he goes into the Hall, he'll go in as a Bengal, not a Cardinal. Regardless, he's currently 6th all-time among active players in receiving yards, but he has played one more season, not counting his missed 2019 season, so he's been on the roster for 2 more years, than DeAndre Hopkins. Therefore, while he is 1 spot lower than Hopkins, so I gave Hopkins the edge over Green. So, yeah. I mean, Green, very talented player. Lastly, we have wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is currently the number 1 active player in receiving yards, and it's not even close. But right now, he's currently not on a roster, so, I mean, he's not retired, but he's not on a roster. He's in limbo. When he goes in the Hall of Fame, he'll be going in as a Cardinal, no doubt about it. I mean, he's only played for Arizona. I wouldn't be shocked if he joins, like, Minnesota next year, or if he joins Minnesota if they start making a run, just as a kid. He grew up a Vikings fan. But anyway, he will be the Cardinals' next Hall of Famer. He will be the next one to go in the Hall with a Cardinals bust. So, it'll be nice. Obviously, Fitzy, well-deserving player. Then we have the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm going with quarterback Matt Ryan. Now, in the AFC video, I mentioned that there's going to be a video that I'm going to do where I'm going to discuss, like, the cases of some of the middle ground quarterbacks, like Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. Matt Ryan will be in that video. But right now, I mean, he's just the best player in Atlanta. He is one of the weaker resumes of players we will talk about today, though. He's a part of the golden era of quarterbacks, so to speak, but this hurts him as much as it helps him. There's a reason Atlanta felt comfortable taking him with the first overall pick in the 2008 draft, and he's been with them since. But he hasn't put up the top numbers and the accolades and all that stuff. All things considered, he is currently 8th all-time in passing yards and 10th in passing touchdowns. So, pretty respectable numbers there. But again, it's because he's playing in this era where passing is king. So, he's a 1-time MVP, and he is a 5-time Pro Bowler. But, similar to Roethlisberger, he hasn't been on an all-pro team. But again, he's going up against players like Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, so Manning. So, it's not, like, insane to think about that. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. And there's a long list of honorable mentions, but when you go with their most likely Hall of Famer, to me, it was pretty simple. Quarterback Cam Newton. Now, controversial pick, I know, but hear me out. Super Cam is probably the most controversial selection on my list, other than Matthew Slater, but he makes sense. Newton was the first overall pick in the 2011 draft, and he burst onto the scene in the league. He played extremely well as a rookie, and he just continued to dominate. He had like a 5-6 year stretch where he was just the best player. One of the best players in the league. Arguably the best, like, most dynamic quarterback in the NFC at that time. And I'm saying dynamic because he's not a better passer than Breeze and Rodgers. So, anyways, injuries have slowed him down a little bit, and his 2020 stint in New England did not help his cause. But Cam is still one of the league's most recognizable names and faces. If you see Cam Newton in public, you know it's Cam Newton. You're not going to look at him and say, hey, wait, is that Cam Newton? Like, I myself, I never really have been good with facial recognition of people, but I know Cam Newton's face. If I see Cam Newton across the field from me, if I see Cam Newton walking down the street, I'm going to know it's Cam Newton. So, he's a 1-time MVP, a 3-time Pro Bowler, and a 1-time first-team All-Pro selection. He still has a ways to go before he makes the Hall. He probably has to have another 2 good years, but it's possible. Next, we get to the honorable mentions for this team. So, first things first, wide receiver Steve Smith Sr. Smith was an amazing athlete and talent at the wide receiver position, and he's currently 8th all-time in receiving yards. The biggest thing with him, though, is will he be a first ballot Hall of Famer, or will he have to wait a year? And will he go in as a Panther, or is he still extremely upset about how they cut him? I think he'll go in as a Panther, but we'll have to see. Defensive end Julius Peppers. Peppers currently ranks 4th all-time in sacks, and assuming no damaging reports come out about him, he'll be a surefire Hall of Famer in the future. Linebacker Luke Kuechly. Now, Kuechly was one of the best linebackers in the league from 2012 until 2019. But he decided to retire to preserve his long-term health. Did he play long enough to make the Hall of Fame? Or are voters going to look at how short he played in the league and decide that he doesn't deserve a bust in Canton? Lastly, we have running back Christian McCaffrey. Now, Run CMC has been one of the best running backs since entering the league as a first-round pick in 2017, but injuries have really derailed his last 2 years, so that doesn't help him in any way, shape, or form, which really stinks. I'd love to see CMC make the Hall of Fame. If he can stay healthy for another, 3 or 4 years, he has a real chance, just because he's a completely different playmaker. He does it all. He can catch, he can run, so... Then you got the Chicago Bears. So for the Chicago Bears, I'm going with, the only obvious choice here. Linebacker, defensive end, Khalil Mack. Now, it's hard to believe that Mack has only been in the league for 8 years. It feels like he's been in the league for so much longer just because of how dominant of a force he's been. You've always had to mark your calendars when you're playing first the Raiders and now the Bears. It's just he's one of those players that you have to plan around. He's all but punched his ticket to Canton despite only being in the league for this amount of time, for 8 years. So, he's already considered to be one of the top 100 greatest Bears of all time, and he's only been with the Bears for, I believe, 4. Now, he has a career sack total of 76.5, and he has 23 forced fumbles. He's currently a 3-time first-team All-Pro selection, 1-time second-team All-Pro, and he is a 6-time Pro Bowler. He is also a member of the NFL 2010s All-Decade Team, and he won the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award once. So, very strong case for the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he's done for the 2021 campaign, and I do have a couple honorable mentions here. So there's 2 of them, and the first one's a bit of a controversial pick, but if you're around, as long as you're not extremely, as long as you're 15 or older, you know who he is. Wide receiver, but mostly kick returner, Devin Hester. Now, Hester is such an electric player that, he never really got the receiving yards just like Slater, but as a return man, he was just elite. For 11 years, he terrorized opposing special teams. So, he has multiple accolades, and he currently holds the NFL record for most return touchdowns, total return touchdowns, and most punt return touchdowns. So, he has a real case. He is eligible for the Hall of Fame now, which is why we're mentioning him. And do I think he belongs in first ballot? No, but I'd love to see him in the Hall of Fame. Lastly, we have offensive tackle Jason Peters. Now, I honestly forgot that he is here in Chicago now, but Peters will be in the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately for the Bears, it will be as an Eagle. There's no doubt about that. He's not going in as anything other than an Eagle. He didn't do anything in Buffalo. He's not going to do anything in Chicago. They're not a playoff team. So, yeah. But, yeah. So, next we have the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys, I am cheating here. I'm going with 2 players. Offensive tackle Tyrone Smith and guard Zach Martin. Like I said, I'm cheating here. But I can't choose just one. If I had to pick one right now, it would be Martin. But both of them have pros and cons compared to one another. So, let's start with Smith. Smith has been in the league for a couple years longer, despite the fact that they're both the same age, ironically enough. So, Smith was a first-round pick in 2011. Martin was one in 2014. Ironically enough, like I said, they're the same age. They were both born in the same year. It's just there was a red shirt, and Martin played through his senior year, whereas Smith declared after his junior year there was no red shirt for him. So, right there, that tells you what's going on. Now, Smith has been nothing short of a rock ever since being drafted by the Cowboys. The left tackle is a 2-time first-team All-Pro selection, 2-time second-team All-Pro selection, and a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's also a member of the NFL 2010s All-Decade Team. Martin, on the other hand, has been one of the best run-blocking guards in the league. He is a 4-time first-team All-Pro pick, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, and he's a member of the NFL 2010s All-Decade Team. So you can see why I'm going with Martin over Smith. He's been in the league for 3 years less, and he has double the All-Pro selections, first-team All-Pro selections, 1 less Pro Bowl. So, yeah. Now, I bet Jerry Jones is happy that he let his scouts talk him out of picking Manziel over Martin. You guys know I had to say that. So, after this, what I'm going to do, one honorable mention, center Travis Frederick. He was another elite member of this offensive line for years, but he retired a bit early for my liking to be a Hall of Famer. We also have Ezekiel Elliott, the running back. Zeke's basically a big face. He's kind of like Cam Newton to an extent. He's a big face, and he's really been slowing down in recent years. So I don't really think he has a case anymore. He'd have to stay relevant and healthy for a good 6 more years at minimum to even have a case. And of course, quarterback Dak Prescott, way too soon to tell, but he's been looking very good. I mean, we'll have to see what happens. And if I'm mentioning players like that, you got to mention CeeDee Lamb, but I'm not even going to get into the CeeDee Lamb discussion today. Detroit Lions, not available. All right, the 2021 Lions stink. I know they just came off a big upset victory over these very same Cardinals we have similar right now, but they stink. They're a very young team, which disqualifies most of their players. Now, they dealt away Matthew Stafford, who would have been the easy pick last year, for Jared Goff and some picks, but I mean, do you really want me to talk about Jared Goff? I didn't think so. So, honorable mention. I have 2 of them. Tight end TJ Hawkinson's the first one. He's too young. Okay? He's disqualified for that. But the way he's been playing, extremely talented player. Same exact thing with running back DeAndre Swift. He's too young. He hasn't been in the league long enough. But the way he's been playing, there's a chance. There's a chance. Not a high one, but there's a chance. Lastly, I gotta... If you listen to me talk... You know I have to mention him. Offensive tackle, Penei Sewell. I love Penei Sewell. I love what he does. I love his potential. I love his upside. I know he's a rookie, but honestly, he's just so talented. I have to mention him. All right, Green Bay Packers. This one's easy. I think you all know this. Quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Who else would it be? Rodgers would have a case to be the GOAT were it not for Tom Brady's existence. Aaron was a first-round pick in the 2005 draft. If you're curious about where he was picked, we do have a video about that, and we will link it in the description below. But Rodgers spent the first 3 years of his career as a backup to Brett Favre, but since taking that starting job from him in 2008 after Favre retired for the first time, he's been an unstoppable force. Rodgers has guided the Pack to a Super Bowl ring and has etched his name in the record books. He is currently 5th all-time in passing touchdowns and 10th all-time in passing yards. Rodgers is a 3-time NFL MVP. He is a 3-time first-team All-Pro selection, 1-time second-team All-Pro selection, and a 9-time Pro Bowler. He is a member of the NFL 2010s All-Decade team. He also holds multiple NFL records, including best passer rating in a single season, lowest interception percentage in a single season, and throwing 402 consecutive passes without being picked off. The only drama is, will he end his career as a member of the Green Bay Packers? So next we have probably one of the longer videos we're going to have to LA Rams. So Los Angeles Rams. To me, the surefire Hall of Famer on the Rams is defensive tackle Aaron Donald. I don't think that's going to surprise anyone. So this team has so much potential, or this player, you know, like I said, this team has so many potential future Hall of Famers. But what we're going to do here... Dang, I was hoping it would be easier than that. But what we're going to do is discuss Aaron Donald as a whole. So, Aaron Donald is a superstar. He is one of the absolute best defensive tackles in the league's history. He consistently gets to the quarterback, and it's just, he's involved in every play. Whether it's a sack, a tackle for a loss, a forced fumble, a pressure that leads to a pick, a pressure that leads to a throwaway, a pass defended, he does it all. Donald has been a special talent since he was drafted in the first round of the 2014 draft. He could retire today, and he'd probably make the Hall of Fame. He is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 6-time first-team All-Pro selection, and a 7-time Pro Bowler. He led the league in sacks once, and he was rated as the league's best player, among other players that voted, in 2018, as well as the second-best player for 2021. So, he's a member of the NFL 2010s All-Decade team as well, and he's not really slowing down either. He's been so strong, so dominant, that he's more than capable of being a Hall of Famer at this point. So, before I get to the honorable mentions, I just want to say I randomly chose this team. I randomly just set this, everything like that. So, these two teams, whatever. So, anyway, honorable mentions for the Rams. Cornerback Jalen Ramsey. See the Jaguars. I discussed him with Jacksonville. Linebacker Von Miller. See the Broncos. I discussed him with the Broncos. Offensive tackle Andrew Whitworth. See the Bengals. I discussed him with the Bengals. First player we're going to discuss here. Quarterback Matthew Stafford. Now, Stafford should make the Hall of Fame at some point, and he's just really just improving his case here in LA. If he does make it, though, it'll be as a Lion. Unless he plays at a high level in LA for another 5+ years, and ends up with a ring to add to his impressive resume. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp. He is displaying amazing chemistry with Stafford, and he's arguably the best receiver in the league this year. If he and Stafford can keep this up for another half decade, 5+ years, he has a chance. Speaking of receivers, wide receiver Robert Woods. Now, Woods is a less attractive name than Kupp, thanks recency bias, but he's been a force in this organization for a while now, and he has potential. I'm not saying he's going to make it, but he has potential. Lastly, I gotta say him, punter Johnny Hekker. Yes, he's the league's best punter, but there's only one punter in the league, of course, right guy, in the Hall of Fame. Now, is Hekker really that good? I don't think so. Sorry, guys. I had to mention him, though. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Safety Harrison Smith. Now, Smith was a late first-round pick in the 2012 draft, and he seemed to take that personally. And he has since been on a mission to prove all the teams that passed on him wrong. Harrison is known as a playmaker and a leader on what was once one of the most feared defenses in the league. He is also well-liked among players and is beloved by the fans. Voters eat that stuff up. They want a player that's beloved by the fans, beloved by his fellow teammates, because there's not as many red flags with that. He's a one-time first-team All-Pro selection, one-time second-team All-Pro selection, and a 5-time Pro Bowler. Honorable mentions. Cornerback Patrick Peterson. Now, he was one of the best lockdown corners in the game for a decade in Arizona, but his play has taken a hit in 2021 while here in Minnesota. Plus, he does have a PED suspension hanging over his head. I'm not sure how the voters are going to respond to that. So, now, the other honorable mention I have for Minnesota is probably the next Viking in the Hall of Fame, running back Adrian Peterson. Now, it wouldn't feel right to discuss Adrian Peterson with a team other than Minnesota. He was an absolute animal while with the Vikings. He made his name known as a rookie, as he did go on to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he never let off the gas. After suffering a torn ACL in 2011, he came back with a vengeance in 2012, as he went on to win the NFL MVP. He is the most recent non-quarterback to win the award, and the only one since 2007. So from 2007 all the way until now, he's been the only non-quarterback to win the award, what's his name? LaDainian Tomlinson won it in 2006. Now, you may be wondering, why did this happen? Well, he was a mere 9 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's record for most rushing yards in the season. Peterson got 2,097. Dickerson's record is 2,105 yards. Now, of course, when discussing Peterson, there is the off-field concern, but Peterson's resume speaks for itself. I don't know if he'll be a first ballot because of the off-field concerns, but I mean, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints. Defensive end Cameron Jordan. Now, Jordan fell to the latter portion of the first round in the 2011 draft, and he took that as an insult. He's been a very likable leader in New Orleans. The fans love him. The players love him. He's been a great mentor to all the younger players. Now, he actually joined the 100 Sack Club earlier, as in yesterday, so he just joined it, so congratulations, Cameron Jordan, for that. He is a one-time first-team All-Pro selection, two-time second-team All-Pro selection, and a 6-time Pro Bowler. He is also a member of the NFL 2010's All-Decade Team. Next, we have the honorable mentions for this team, and there's a decent amount of them. Quarterback Drew Brees has to be the first one I mention here. So Brees will be in the Hall of Fame. When he's first eligible, he'll be in the Hall of Fame for the class of 2026. It's just, there's no doubt at this point. He's so talented that he's going to make it, and he's going to push back some people like Eli Manning. If Manning isn't a first ballot, he'll push back Manning. He's going to push back Phillip Rivers regardless. So, Brees, amazing player. He led the city of New Orleans to a Super Bowl during an extremely difficult time for the city, and they are forever grateful for that. He currently sits second in career passing yards and second in career passing touchdowns. Like I said, he will be in the Hall of Fame in 2026. Guard Jari Evans. Now, Evans was a standout guard in the Bayou for a decade, and he has a chance to make it this year even. Now, the thing is, the Hall doesn't necessarily like voting in guards. I mean, look at a couple players like Faneca. They made him wait forever, but anyways, we'll have to see. There's a chance. I don't think he'll make it, at least not right now, but he still has a strong chance to make the Hall of Fame at some point. Wide receiver, Michael Thomas. He had such an amazing start to his career, but injuries really limited him in 2020, And he hasn't played yet in 2021. He's probably not playing in 2021. Now, there were cryptic comments about how he wanted the Saints to get a new quarterback. They didn't. They brought back Winston, and of course, they still have Taysom Hill. And Michael Thomas allegedly wasn't happy about that at all, so he kind of threatened, I'm not playing this year. So obviously, there's some concerns with that. But the way he started his career with such a bang, there's a good chance he can make a run to a potential Hall of Fame case, but we'll have to see. He needs to rebound. We have two more players here. Running back Alvin Kamara. Now, it may be a little early for Kamara, but he has looked like a superstar. He's one of the best running backs in the league and looks primed to continue to dominate if he can stay healthy. Lastly, we have cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. Now, Lattimore is off to an amazing start in his career, but we still need to see a bit more out of him before we can say he's a Hall of Famer. Next, we have the New York Football Giants. And this is like one of the toughest teams possible. But for them, I went with tackle Nate Soldier. It's not going to happen. No way it's going to happen. But he was once a very good tackle before the Giants paid him a ton of money. He doesn't have any Pro Bowl selections or All-Pro selections or anything, but hey. Now, honorable mentions. Quarterback Eli Manning. Like I mentioned before with Matt Ryan, and earlier today with Philip Rivers, this topic, his Hall of Fame candidacy, will be a discussion for another video. So that leaves us with running back Saquon Barkley. Now, when he's healthy, Barkley is an absolute force. Hopefully, Hall of Fame voters don't care about what ifs and potential. I mean, we've seen it before with Tony Baselli. So, I mean, yeah, his career was shortened by injuries. He was a dominant player, but he kept getting hurt. He's still waiting to get the call. So that leaves us now with my Philadelphia Eagles. And this is something I've mulled in my head before multiple times. And basically, this is what gave me the idea for this video. So I went with center Jason Kelce. Now, Kelce is one of the best centers in the league. He fell to the 6th round in the 2011 draft as he was considered undersized and too small to play in the NFL. And he took that personally. Despite this, Kelce went on to win the starting job against incumbent Jamal Jackson, and as a rookie, he began to start. And he was very good. Other than missing most of the 2012 season due to a knee injury, Kelce has been a superstar. He's a 3-time first-team All-Pro and a 4-time Pro Bowl player. Now, I do want to point out he was snubbed a few times early in his career from the Pro Bowl. The voters did make it up for him by giving him a Pro Bowl selection. I think it was in 2019 where he probably didn't deserve it, but he could be more. Now, honorable mentions for the Eagles. Defensive tackle Fletcher Cox. Since joining the Eagles as a first-rounder in 2012, Cox has been a force at the defensive tackle position. He used to be considered the second-best D tackle in the league behind Aaron Donald, but those times are past us now. Now, Cox still has some time to add to his resume, but right now, if he were to retire today, he'd still have a shot. Defensive end Brandon Graham. I love Graham. Baseball is currently experiencing an analytical boom when it comes to voting in the Hall of Fame. Now, why does that matter? This is a football video. Well, if the analytical boom carries over to the NFL, Graham will be one of the biggest beneficiaries in the league. He only has a single Pro Bowl to his name, but what he does is he constantly gets to the quarterback. He doesn't get the sacks, but he gets the hurries, he gets the pressures, he gets the rushes. He constantly makes the quarterbacks freak out, panic, have to run away, throw the ball on the run, which could lead to an interception, could lead to just an incomplete pass. If an analytical boom comes to the NFL, Brandon Graham will get a potential shot at the Hall of Fame. He just needs to stay healthy and be on the Eagles or another team for at least another 2 or so years. Hopefully add a Pro Bowl to that as well. Maybe a second team All-Pro or something. Next, we have cornerback Darius Slay. Now, Slay had an elite 3-year stretch in Detroit from 2017 to 2019, and although his first year in Philly was rocky, no pun intended, he has rebounded with a great year thus far in 2021. If his strong play continues for another 3 to 5 years, he has a very good chance to make the Hall of Fame. San Francisco 49ers. Offensive tackle Trent Williams. Now, Williams spent a decade as one of the best left tackles in the game in Washington. However, due to a personal grievance he had with the team, he held out in the 2019 campaign. And as a result, he continued to hold out, and they said, all right, we're just going to trade you. So they sent him to San Francisco for 2020. Now, San Francisco eagerly, made the move for him. He's continued to be a star as a 49er, and he may be in the middle of one of his best seasons ever. He's a one-time second-team All-Pro selection, but more notably, he's an 8-time Pro Bowler. Honorable mentions for this team, and there's a good amount. Center Alex Mack. Now, Mack is probably a lock for the Hall of Fame, but he has only spent a single year in San Francisco. He spent 7 years with Joe Thomas in Cleveland and 5 in Atlanta, where he played in his first ever Super Bowl. Now, Mack's career is nearing an end, but he is one of the best centers in the league. Tight end George Kittle. Ever since he won the tight end role as a rookie in 2017, Kittle has been one of the best at the position in the league. He still needs a few strong years to earn serious Hall of Fame consideration, but he is well on his way there. Then you get defensive end Nick Bosa. Like his brother Joey, Nick is a consistent threat when it comes to getting the quarterback. Unfortunately, just like Joey, he has had some injury concerns. He has been elite in 2021, though. He still has a ways to go, but I'd say it's safe to say that right now, Nick probably has a higher chance to make the Hall of Fame than Joey. So, linebacker Fred Warner. Warner is one of the best linebackers in the league right now. He's only been in the league since 2018, which technically disqualifies him from the list, but I'd still put Williamson over him anyway. But at the rate he's been playing, he will be in Canton once his career comes to an end. We only got a couple teams left, 3 teams left. Next is the Seattle Seahawks, and you have to go with them. Quarterback Russell Wilson. Now, Wilson is the best quarterback in the history of the Seattle Seahawks. No debating that at this point in time. He helped guide them to their first ever Super Bowl victory, and he has been a consistent, steady player since being drafted in the 3rd round of the 2012 draft. Not only is he a good passer, but in his heyday, he was an elite rusher as well. He also has amazing top-tier vision, as he rarely throws interceptions. He is something like, I didn't write down the number, but it's like 270 touchdowns to 70 picks. That's good vision right there. Now, he's a one-time second-team All-Pro selection, but again, that's just because of how great all these other quarterbacks are in the golden era of quarterbacks, and he's an 8-time Pro Bowler. He led the NFL in passer rating once and passing touchdowns once. Honorable mentions for this team, so there's 3 of them. You get running back Marshawn Lynch, of course, first one. Now, Beast Mode has a very good chance on making it to the Hall of Fame. In fact, his Beastquake run in the 2010 playoffs against the Saints is one of the most recognizable runs in NFL history. He will be a Seahawk when he is inducted in the Hall of Fame, though. Easy. Linebacker Bobby Wagner. Now, Wagner has been one of the absolute best tacklers in the league since he was drafted in 2012. In fact, I have a Madden game going on here, so let's mention Madden real quick. A couple years back, if you saw that Devontae Adams ratings adjuster thing, they leave those little comments. One of them said something along the lines of, if he gets his hands on you, you're not going anywhere. You're going down. It's a surefire tackle. So, Bobby Wagner definitely has a chance. He's not as effective as he was in his prime a few years back, but he's still playing at a very high level. I almost made him the Hall of Famer, but Wilson just makes more sense to me. Wagner is the quarterback of the defense, Lastly, running back Adrian Peterson. Peterson's currently on the Seahawks, but he's only appeared in 1 game for them at this point. So, we discussed him with the Vikings, so see Minnesota. 2 more teams. We have this one here, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think you know who my pick is here. Come on. Devin what? No. Quarterback Tom Brady. This was the biggest no-brainer of them all. I don't think I have to explain this pick, but I'm going to anyway. Brady was the 199th overall selection in the 2000 NFL Draft. And since then, he has established himself as the GOAT. He currently leads the league in total passing touchdowns all time, and most passing yards all time. So he's up there. He has won an unprecedented 7 Super Bowls. Okay? He's a 5-time Super Bowl MVP. He's a 3-time NFL MVP. He's a 3-time first-team All-Pro, a 2-time second-team All-Pro, and a 14-time Pro Bowler. Here's where it gets fun. Brady has led the league in passing touchdowns 4 times, passing yards 3 times, and passer rating twice. Now, he is the only person on my list here who's a member of the NFL 2000s All-Decade Team, and of course, he was a member of the 2010s All-Decade Team as well. He is the only person on my list who is a member of the NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team, excluding players who are honorable mentions, like Drew Brees maybe could have been, I don't know. I have to look. He has the most career wins in NFL history. He has the most playoff wins. Basically, anything you can think of for a quarterback, Brady's up there. If he isn't top 5, he's the leader. Okay, GOAT. Simple as that. I don't like Brady, but he's the GOAT. No denying it. No denying it. Although I do have to say, I don't necessarily agree with how he acted with the Saints sideline yesterday, but that's neither here nor there. Honorable mentions, tight end Rob Gronkowski. Now, Brady's favorite target for years has a very good chance at making the Hall with him. Gronk is a beloved fixture of both Tampa Bay and New England. He's been one of the league's best tight ends since he was drafted, and he's having another amazing year in 2021, hold the injuries. Then you get defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh. Now, he's definitely a controversial player, but all said and done, he's had a very productive career. Wide receiver Antonio Brown. Oh boy, from one controversial player to another. This time, difference. So, Suh is hated for his on-field play. He does stuff like stepping on opponents. I'm not even going to get into what Antonio Brown has done and allegedly done. That's a whole different video for a whole different day. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, obviously, he did something today. He's currently, well, now his suspension's done since they played their 3 games, but he was just suspended 3 games for something I'm not going to mention in this video because, you know, demonetization. But anyways, very good player. He was once considered a lock for Canton, but the past 3 years of his career, 2019, 2020, and 2021, have been surrounded by controversy. Big time. I mean, look at his tenure with the Raiders. Look at his tenure with the Patriots. It's just, there's too much. Too much going on here. Way too much going on here. Buccaneers time has been good, but now, can he clear his name enough to make the Hall of Fame? Maybe. Lastly for them, we have wide receiver Mike Evans. Evans was a star when Jameis Winston was throwing him the ball. With Brady, he's only gotten better. He continues to grow his case, but he's still a while away. He's still a few years away. Last team we get to discuss is the Washington football team. For them, I'm going with guard Brandon Scherff. Now, Scherff was an early pick in the 2015 draft, and he's proven that the franchise made the right move by selecting a guard that early. If only they had him when RG3 was a rookie. Anyways, Brandon is the best player at offensive line for the past 7 years, and he figures to stay in that role for years to come. He's a 1-time first-team All-Pro and a 4-time Pro Bowler. Honorable mention, I have 2 of them here. Well, technically 3. First, Trent Williams, see the 49ers. Next, we have wide receiver Terry McLaurin. I'm a believer in McLaurin. He is an amazing player, and if the team can get him, you know, consistent top-tier quarterback play, he definitely will make the Hall of Fame. Lastly, last player we're going to discuss is defensive end Chase Young. Now, he is way too young, but he is the best player on this top-tier defensive line. Can he stay healthy for long enough, though, is the real question. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, this was the NFC part of the most likely Hall of Famers from each team. There's a lot going on here, so I kind of went into a lot of details with some teams, but some teams just have so many players. I mean, look at the Rams. I literally broke apart the Rams by discussing some of their players with other teams just because there's so much to say. And I could have even sent Stafford to Detroit, and it would have made sense. But, you know, everyone I discussed in these 2 videos has a real case at the Hall of Fame at minimum. I mean, they're not all going to make it, but I'd like to see some of these guys make the Hall of Fame. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed both of these videos. These were the most likely Hall of Famer from each team. This video was the NFC one. The AFC one will be linked in the description below. Have a great